News has been quite depressing lately. What if you can just select the heading, right-click, and then make it happy? Or make it funny? Or I don't know why you would do that, but you can also make it angry. In this video, we'll explore how to create a Chrome extension, and with the help of ChatGPT, we can just change the sentiment of any text. So for example, this headline is pretty negative. And what if we turn into positive with ChatGPT? We can right-click and with the help of contextual menu, change its sentiment to something positive. And also it can include puns as well. So this is not a finished product. This is just experiment that I recently did. And I thought it would be cool to share it with you guys as well. So before we start coding, guys, I would like to request that you give a big like and subscribe to this video. This helps me quite a lot. And let's start coding. Alright, so for this tutorial, you would need some JavaScript expertise. And in addition to that, you would also need OpenAI account for ChatGPT. First thing we will do is we will create a folder and drag it into our VS Code. And then we will create a file called manifest.json. This will contain the configuration for Chrome extension. So let me explain what our configuration does. So first of all, it's using manifest version 3. That's the latest version. Make sure to check the documentation for more details about it because the version 2 and the version 3 are quite different. And then we have the name of the extension, the version, and the permissions. So in this case, we are defining 3 permissions. First one is the context menu, which will let us build the context menus. Second one is the scripting, which will allow us to insert a script in the current tab. And the third one is access to the current tab. And all 3 of these permissions are necessary in order to build our extension. You can go to the permission section of documentation to see more of them. I will list the URL in the PDF as well. And then here we are defining 4 icons. These are the different icons that Chrome uses in order to show the extension. So I have pasted these and these are going to be my icons, but you can choose any of them. Of course, they have to be transparent though. After that, we are defining our background script. This runs in the background and it does not have any direct access to the web page. In this script, we will build our context menus and handle when they're clicked, and also execute some script that's going to be executed in the tab. And then we define the type as module if you want to use ES6 modules here. And the last but not least, we are defining the host permissions. And we have defined this as all URLs, meaning that no matter what the URLs are, our context menus will be able to execute the script in it. If you want to use a specific URL, for example, CNN only, so you can define it here. Next, we will create our background.js that we have defined here. We can create in the root of our extension. So I'll create a new file, background.js. And then I'll paste this code here and I will go through one by one what we are doing here. So this is the event listener for onStalled. Chrome runs anything inside it when the extension is ready to be loaded. Usually you would put any of the code here, but there are other events that you can look up in the documentation. Next, we are defining our primary menu, and this says that change the sentiment. It doesn't have any handler actually. The only job it does is to bring out the submenus. And then we have 3 submenus here. They are all targeting different sentiments. So for example, first one is happy and second one is funny. You can add as many context menus as you want. But notice here that we are giving a specific ID. This ID will be used later. Keep the note of it. And then we are defining a parent ID here as well, which basically tells the API that this context menu should be under the primary menu. And then we also provide a context here, so when it should be visible. Here we say that it should be visible when any text selection should happen. So we have defined the menus, but there's no handle or action here. Before going to that, what we will do is we will install this extension in our Chrome. So our extension is still in development. It's not yet in the store. So what we can do is we can open the new tab and type this in the URL. This will open our extension menu, but we are developing it, so we can turn this on. We can turn the developer mode on here. So we can click on load unpack and go to the directory which contains our code for the extension. This will load up our extension. It has the name of the extension that we use in our manifest, the version number. Now, before showing you how our context menus are visible in any of the page, I just want to briefly explain how do you debug any of the errors in the extension. You can see here that there is a link called service worker. As I mentioned before, the background JS runs in the background, so you won't be able to inspect via usual method. You have to click here. It will open a new tab, and you will see the errors for that here. So let me just intentionally make any error. Let's say I add an S, extra S in the context menus. And if I refresh, you will see that there is an error. And if I go here, it shows me what exactly the error is. Now, there's a tricky part here, which is if you have errors and you fix those errors, you cannot just refresh here. You also will have to clear those errors from here. This is an odd behavior from Chrome, but this is how it is. Now if we go to our web page again and right click here, you can see that all three menus appear. Make it happy, make it funny, and make it angry. So our context menu code is working. Let's move on. So let me scroll down here. Now you might have noticed that I'm not assigning a handler to each of the menu. Instead, what I'm doing is that I have this one handler for any of the click event, to which I'm giving an execute script function. And this function is defined here. Now we don't need to assign an individual handler for each of the context menu, because this handler is given two parameters. First one, which is the info about the context menu, and the second one is the current tab. Inside this function, we are executing our script and we provide a tab ID, which is taken from here, and then a parameter called all frames, which for this demo you can just set it as false. After that, you can give it a file where you can put all your JS code, or you can give a function where you can define inline JavaScript code. And also you can pass arguments. In our case, we are passing it an argument called info, which we are getting here. So let's see what it does actually. What it's doing is that whenever a particular context menu is clicked, it's executing this script. Within this function, we are getting the selected text that user have selected and removing any new lines from within it. And then we are checking if the selection has the parent node. If it doesn't, then we are showing this message here. Now this is very simplistic. In actual case, you might have nested nodes and nested items in which this code might fail. But just to make it work, we are grabbing the first parent node. After we get the full text of the parent node, whatever is within it. So at this stage, we have the parent node text and the selection. And then we define a fetch call here. This will make a call to our web service, which will return ChatGPT text to us. After the request successfully returns the results, we are creating a regular expression. Look for the selected text from within the full text to replace it. This way, only the selected text got replaced and not everything within the node. And after that, we reassign the replaced text to the parent node text content. Lastly, we are clearing out any selection that might happen from the user. So this is our client-side code. Of course, it has a lot of edge cases, which I haven't covered it yet. But with this code, you can see how you can go around building a full-fledged extension. By the way, all the code that is defined within this function here in the execute script, any error that might happen will be visible in usual Chrome developer tools, because this code is being run within the context of the current tab. So just to keep that in mind. Now let's create another folder, and here our server code will reside. Let me do npm init -y, and it will create this package.json. I will replace it with that. Here we are installing cores for cross-browser requests, .env for handling our environment files, Express.js, OpenAI, and one dev dependency called nodemon, which will help us run our server. So I will run npm install. After everything installed, we have nodemon in our start script with the index.js. I will create this file here called index.js. And here we have this code. We are initiating our Express here, and then we are requiring OpenAI and cores. And then we are configuring our OpenAI with the OpenAI key that we will define in our environment file. So let me create environment file here as well. And I will paste my API key here. We are creating our Express app, creating a port for it, and initializing OpenAI SDK. And also we are letting the app use the cores here. After that, we are defining the route here. But I have commented that just to test our static message here. So let me just say here math random. And what it's doing is that it's defining this message and then returning this message as a response. There are some error handling here as well. Alright, so let's run our server here. And remember that we are calling this specific URL in our Chrome extension code. Just to explain this request a little bit, here we are passing two parameters. First one is the selected text, and the second one is the sentiment. Now where this sentiment is coming from? Remember when I said that we'll be using these IDs later on? This is what we are passing as a sentiment. Now let's try our extension. So I have this headline. I can just right click and then change it. And as you can see, the static message is being changed here. Now let's make it fully functional. I will comment this code here and uncomment this code. So here we are creating a completion with a latest ChatGPT model. And then we have a prompt called turn this into whatever the sentiment ID is being passed there. And remember, it could be happy, sad, or whatever. So in a sentence, it would translate into turn this into humorous, and then we pass the selection. So that's quite all actually. You can get creative with this prompt. I'm setting the temperature to 0.6, number of choices to be 1, and max token to be 50, which is quite reasonable for a headline. But if you are doing more conversion, for example, if you're changing the paragraph itself, you need to increase it. And after that, we are returning the message. So let's try it. I will select this text here, and then I will try to make it happy. Let's see what happens. Okay, I don't know if that's a happy or not, but I will accept it. Let's try to make it humorous. Let's refresh and let's try to make it humorous. Okay. Oh geez. that's quite funny. Some speculate that Santos has been replaced by overgrown hamster in an attempt to liven up. Alright, so this is all guys. I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you did, make sure to subscribe and like. And also I would like to know how would you further develop this extension according to your ideas. Some ideas that I have is that you can apply this to a text editor where you can give a prompt and then let the ChatGPT do all the work. That would be pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for watching.